Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collarwood for YouTube, back with another Dark Shadows video for you guys and gals. Yesterday I shared an article from BloodyDisgusting.com where the Munsters was getting another reboot. Um, you know, by producer James Wan of the Saw franchise. If you know who that is. Really, really smart director, really smart guy. Um, though I'm happy for people who are fans of the Munsters, great for them. I like the Munsters. I wouldn't claim to be the biggest fan of it. I will say it's a bit disappointing for me as a Dark Shadows fan to go on sites and not hear any update on Dark Shadows. To hear that a producer hasn't picked up Dark Shadows, or an executive producer hasn't picked up Mark B. Perry's script, or a streaming service hasn't picked it up. And I want to make this real clear before I continue. What I'm about to say, for the most part, is my opinion. There is some fact in here, and I'll tell you when the fact comes into play. This next part is my opinion. Why do I think we haven't received haven't got this new Dark Shadows series yet? Honestly, which is a sequel to the original. Well, it's real simple. When Mark B. Perry hands his script to a producer or an executive producer of a streaming service, whoever he hands his script to, and they read it, and he's sitting in front of them, however this works, you need to understand one thing, and this is what's fact. They do not have to compare it to the original series. They do not have to go all the way back to the original series and say, Dark Shadows from the 60s, that worked, that was great. Yeah, we'll approve your script, Mark. Approved. We're going to find it. We're going to put this into production. We're going to let you cast the script and go on your merry way. They don't have to do that. What they could be doing, and I stress the word could be, not necessarily that they are doing this, I have no proof. A lot of times, executive producers, will go on the last thing that came out more recently that was Dark Shadows. And what was that? It was the Tim Burton 2012 Dark Shadows movie, which wasn't good, wasn't well written, and wasn't well received because it's a walking fucking piece of shit. Okay? Now that's the furthest thing you're going to get out of me for a rant. I will say that, again, I have no proof they're doing this, but you also have to understand they don't have to compare it. They don't have to look at Mark B. Perry's script and go all the way back to the original. All they have to do is go back to what was the most recent thing that was Dark Shadows. That's all they have to do and say, oh, was that a hit? Was that well received? Oh, no, it wasn't. And all they have to say to Mark B. Perry is, well, if Tim Burton couldn't make this a success, why could you? How can you? Why should we give you a chance when Tim Burton couldn't turn this around? That's all they have to do. You got to understand, from a financial standpoint, and that's what this is. This is all a money game. They do not have to go all the way back to the 60s to what did work. They don't. There's nothing obligating them to. There's nothing forcing them to. It's their choice how they view that. It is their choice. Now, do I think that's fair if that's what they're doing? No. Hell no. Because you should not compare something that isn't canon to the series. That's number one. Because Mark B. Perry's script, all intents and purposes, by everything we've all heard, is what? It's a sequel to the original series. To me, yes, that's what they should be comparing it to. Not holding it to a movie that wasn't great or wasn't even good. If that's what they're doing. I want to stress that. I don't know if that's what they're doing. But it does make you wonder if they're not doing that, if the producers aren't comparing it to the 2012 Dark Shadows movie, which wasn't good, then why haven't we received news about Mark B. Perry's Dark Shadows being picked up? Okay? You have to wonder. Now, I personally feel, in my opinion, I want to stress this, that it is the 2012 movie. That is why we haven't gotten Mark B. Perry's Dark Shadows yet. I think that is the reason. Because again, all as a producer, any executive producer, anybody who's financing this, anybody who's in charge of production, all they have to do is look at him and say, well, this guy Tim Burton, he's a big household movie guy, and he couldn't turn this into a profit really. What makes you think you can? That's all they have to do. Now, what's a counter thing that Mark could do? In my opinion, and I want to stress that, I think MPI, who does do home video release, should approach Mark and say, let's get the money together and let's build some sets and let's do Dark Shadows. I don't know if MPI could do that. Now they do home video release, and they have filmed shit, right? They have filmed stuff. I think they need to start thinking about the future of Dark Shadows. Not tomorrow, right now. Not next week from now, right fucking now. You better start thinking about the future of Dark Shadows. Stop waiting around for a streaming service to pick this up when they may never pick it up. They don't have to pick it up. They don't have to look at the 60s series. Yes, we all look at the 60s series. We're all fans. We're all fans. But I'm also being very objective about this too. No producer, no executive producer has to look at the 60s series. I know I'm repeating myself, but understand I'm repeating for a reason. The only way a producer would, or even would think about it, is if they were a fan of the fucking show. Okay? Unless by some chance Mark B. Perry is going to lay his script down in front of somebody who is an actual fan of that original show and has a shitload of money and wants to invest in Dark Shadows, that's the only other way Dark Shadows is going to happen. Because in order for Mark B. Perry's Dark Shadows to exist, it requires this. Bottom line, that's what it requires. Yes, it requires fans to watch it too. A lot of fans, I'd like to think, are going to watch Mark B. Perry's Dark Shadows. Again, I never speak for anybody. I only speak for myself. Yes, I will watch Mark B. Perry's Dark Shadows if/when it happens. And I say if/when because I can't sit here and tell you that it will happen. If I told you it will, that would be a lie. I don't know that. I don't know if it will happen. But I can tell you this. A streaming service or a cable provider or a cable network does not have to look at the original series. They only have to look at, well, what was the last thing called Dark Shadows? And yes, that is, if they are doing that, yeah, that's reason enough for them. I want to stress that for them to not approve Mark's script as a show. It's not enough for me. It's not enough for you, perhaps, but it's enough for them. Because that didn't succeed. That wasn't successful. That's not widely popular. Not everything gets looked back at the original. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, like Halloween, like Friday the 13th. Those are exceptions to the rule. Because why? John Carpenter's Halloween is an immortal classic. Everybody goes back to the original. Look, I'm a fan of 1 through 8. I'm a fan of the sequels. But you start at that original. No matter what. Halloween, you know, people like to say that there are people who didn't care about Halloween. I disagree with that. Because if they didn't care, it would have got made as shitty as that 2012 Dark Shadows movie got made. We've never had that with Halloween, in my opinion. With Tim Burton's 2012 movie, we did have that for Dark Shadows. And it is to me, is it a black eye? I'll say this. If that's the reason that if that's the reason, in my opinion, if that's the reason we do not have Mark B. Perry's series, then yes, it is a black eye. There's no question. Because what else is the holdup? What else is it? Again, this is just my opinion. I could be wrong. Please let me know yours. I'd love to hear it. Have a nice day and take care.